Hello, everyone. Nice to see your faces, names, all of us together again. If you don't remember who I am, I'm Pat Kenny, chairman of AFM. It has been a while. I'm still here, kicking, optimistic, I guess, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But it's been a crazy year and a half. And as we were just speaking, in the United States, they opened it up to get your vaccine to everyone about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we're really moving forward, but obviously in other countries, some are just getting started. So everywhere is different. So just speaking about the United States right now, like I said, on the bright side of things, I think through all this, and you have to look at the bright side. You can't look at the negative side too much. It'd kill you. We spent more time at home with our families. We've gotten to know our pets much better. This is all my experience anyways, but all that's been good, for all the traveling that I've done in the past number of years, never being home. I have a commute of a little bit over 2 hours each way to the office when I go to work. All that's gone away for a year and a half, and maybe it's recharged my batteries, and I don't really miss it all that much, but I know I have to go back to reality too, and I want to go back to reality, but reality is going to be different. For me, I'll probably be in the office maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and I'll work 2 days from home. Some people are just going to work from home. Offices have downsized. In CQG's world, we've definitely taken less space in office spaces throughout the world, with more people working at home. That's changed, but just speaking from CQG, I'm just going to get my little 2 cents in. We stayed strong. Our volumes have been great through CQG through all this. We were set up and pretty much prepared, I guess, for if we did get some sort of an explosion like we got. So knock on wood, it's all been good. We continue to kind of move forward. That's not to say that every company's had those same fortunes as we have, but we've been pretty lucky so far through everything. Personally, we need to get back to what we know. I mean, for this group, for the AFM group, and I look at it as an extended family because you've gotten to know each other very well over the years, being in some beautiful places throughout the world. Not traveling is a change. Not networking. That's big to me, be it that I've always been in sales, 20 years on the trading floor, but the other 21 years have been more on the sales side. I love that networking and building relationships. And that's become difficult when you're on a Zoom call or just talking to somebody or writing an email. It's not the same. So I look very much forward to that coming back. And I think relatively soon, at least I hope so. I hope AFM can go back to the Belarus exchange, hosting, and we all get together and we all have a good time. So again, staying optimistic. It'll be interesting to hear everyone's stories today. They're all going to be different. Everyone has different struggles. But at the same time, like I said, stay optimistic. We really look forward to everyone getting back together again and looking our glass and enjoying having a good time.
Hello. Yeah,
Terry.
please, can we stay muted if we're not speaking? Sorry, Pat.
That's okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul and we'll get started. Everybody enjoy their day.
Thanks, Pat. As those of you who've seen the agenda would have noticed, we have a lot to get through, and we have a window that has got 1 hour and 23 remaining. So what I think we will do is, I've got to say hello. I'm being impolite. Hello, everyone. So lockdown for me has seen lots of changes. I actually had a haircut yesterday, for those of you that don't believe me. And I came back with 1 inch less hair. My wife suggested I just been out for a walk. But anyway, but things are still happening. Work is still going on. I echo Pat's views about lack of networking, lack of actually meeting people. However, I think one of the things we probably have all become better at is nuances of speech to replace subtle body language movements. Because subtlety of movement is not possible on Zoom. You get time delays and everything, as you all know. And work continues, markets continue, and we'll hear more about that as we go along. And again, from a personal perspective, I'm currently working with developments of brand new energy markets in countries east of Europe and countries in South Asia. And this is all within the last 2 years and actually current. So it's refreshing. I was quite surprised that the opportunity was there to do work around India. We're actually doing something now. I feel for those guys, I have to say, but life goes on and they're getting on with it. We get to a sense of normality and they will have the markets that they're striving to develop. So I'm not going to chunter on any longer. I might say a few words at the end. I'm now going to give over to Brian from Euronext in his art gallery. Let's be conscious of the time limitations and try and stick to 5-ish minutes. And if there's time left over, maybe not everyone's going to be here. If there is time left over, we'll fill it by opening up. If you have any points or questions, please use the chat and I'll try and pick them up and throw them back at whoever it is they're meant for. So, and please put your questions in open to all so everyone can see them. But I'll make sure they get covered. I'll throw them back to the speaker involved. Okay, Brian, it's all yours.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Paul, and thank you, Patrick, for the intro. I'll just spend the first minute or so just talking about our own situation. So I'm Brian from Euronext. We're part of a commodities team. There's four of us in the commodities team, and we're distributed around Europe mainly. So we've got our leader who is in Amsterdam. We've got me who's halfway between Dublin, London, and Paris normally, and we've got two people in Paris. So if you'd have said to me a few years ago, how would you survive if you were locked down for a year and not able to actually see the people you work with, I think only going back maybe 5 or 6 years, certainly 10 years, the business wouldn't have survived. You know, I think one thing about COVID is that you can't say it's come at the right time, but it has come at a time where technology, such as what the Zoom call we're doing now, has meant that we can continue working in very complex environments and actually thrive. I mean, I come from a time before the mobile phone was distributed, and I remember the first mobile phone being distributed. But to think in sort of 10 or 15 short years from that time, we can actually run a complex people-based business from our own homes and apartments and flats is quite incredible. From a Euronext point of view, and from a futures point of view on Euronext, our business was stronger last year than in any previous year. We were, I think, 17. We have 3 main contracts. We have a milling wheat contract. We have a rapeseed contracts, and we have corn contracts. All of those were significantly higher in volumes than they were in previous years. And I think part of that was obviously the volatility caused by what's going to happen next in the world of COVID. And also in the Far East with Russia wanting to protect its own grain and imposing export taxes, that's contributed to the volatility of our agricultural markets. And so from a business point of view, I think we felt that through lockdown, we've been able to support the business as effectively or nearly effectively as we would have done without lockdown. It's been tricky. We had a new starter join us in the middle of last year. I've only met her, Caroline. I've only met Caroline once in person, and we're using Zoom and Microsoft Teams every day to make sure we're working well as a team. And it is difficult, but the business itself is and the supporting of clients and the client engagement is probably stronger now than it was before lockdown. It's a lot easier to, if you're phoning a key client, a major bank, and you want to have a meeting with them about, a $1 million week futures contract, it's a lot easier saying, look, it's not going to take too much of your time. It's really important to us if we speak about this. A quick meetings call. It's a lot easier to set that up and say, look, we'll come round to your offices in 3 weeks' time, and you have to go through the process of getting there, going through reception and all of that kind of stuff, and then booking a meeting room. So in many ways, it's actually been easier to support clients under lockdown using Zoom and using Microsoft Teams than it has been before. We record all of our meetings with our major clients with our CRM system, and we have had far more client engagement through lockdown than we've ever had in the past. So I think to answer the question as to how you as a business has survived during lockdown, I think remarkably well. And again, going back to my point, to the extent where if you'd have asked me, well, probably 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it would be possible. I would have thought that after a month or 2 months or 3 months would have just folded and given up. So we've got a lot, I think, to thank technology for. And I think for the futures markets, it's been particularly strong. I think volatility means that people have to hedge their risk. It means that people have to manage their risk, and the futures markets are there to protect the industrial client and the commercial client. And I think it has been, seems bad to say it, but during COVID, I think the futures markets have stepped up to the plate and have helped clients to survive. I think that's probably the best way to say it. In terms of what we're doing going forward to further help our industrial clients and commercial clients, we're launching our current contracts are currently physically delivered, which means that you take a week contract out, in 3 months' time you have to work out getting a big pile of wheat and delivering it somewhere. So we're going to launch some niche contracts. Durum wheat is our first one, which is the wheat that you make pasta with. And we're going to be launching that as a cash settle contract, which means that it's a little bit more accessible to smaller players and to people who want to hedge the price risk, but don't necessarily want to take delivery of the product. Has this been helped by COVID? I don't think so. But certainly, I think the fact that people now see Microsoft Teams and Zoom calls as being a natural phenomenon, we've been able to get working groups together with far more people in working groups to help us design the contract than we probably would have done if we had have said, "Oh, come on, everybody, let's join up in La Défense in Paris and have a big meeting to talk about this every 2 months." So I think in many ways COVID has helped. I think as Patrick and Paul said earlier on, I think I will be very pleased to go back to the office. I'll be very pleased to have someone else cut my hair. And my own view is that we probably never will go back to the 5 day a week in the office. I'm probably speaking out of turn for my own company here, but we probably never will go back to a 5 day a week in the office situation. I think that the big companies will start offering much more flexible working, 2 days in, 3 days in, whichever works for people. And my own view is that people who don't offer that kind of flexibility will start to lose their staff. So I think COVID, if there's any benefit of COVID, I think it's this shock of flexible working that it's brought into play, and I think that will, I don't think very few people want to work at home forever. But I think lots of people have seen the advantage of not having a 2-hour commute every day. And I think some of that will stay. So I hope some of it will stay. So I think that's my 5 minutes, is it, Paul? Probably more.
Yeah, that's good enough. A bit over, but I don't mind. You kicked us off. No. I just a couple of things on that. Of course, there is a notable exception to work from home. Hello, Goldman's. There's no one here from Goldman's, is there? I just wonder what it will do to the intern entries next year. Will they think twice? And I already noticed that there's a beginnings of the conversion of certain office real estate in London that I know of, not back into, but into apartments. Wow. And they're nice buildings, some of them with great views, and people will move back into the city centres, even if they're not going to the office every day. Interesting stuff to look forward to. Okay, we'll press on. Can I ask, actually, out of interest, is the representative or a representative from Uzbekistan online? No. Okay, I'll ask again when we get towards their position on the agenda. Next up is South Africa. If Michelle is there, please join us. Thank you.
Hi, Paul. Raphael here. I'm not sure if.
Who? No, it's Michelle. Raphael. Oh gosh.
Okay.
No, you're coming up in a moment. It's Michelle from STT now. I heard you. Okay, Raphael. We'll sort that out. Yeah. Go on, Michelle.
Cheers, thanks very much. It's awesome to connect with all of you again, as per usual. It's a pity it's not over a glass of wine like we are used to, but it is what it is. So for us, we've seen a growth well beyond what we see in our on-site environment. So at the start of lockdown, it was relatively simple for us to invoke our business continuity plan. We just didn't realize it would still be going over a year later. So I think we're all quite shocked by that. But as a result, in our remote working, we saw an increase in productivity, obviously, as Brian said, because you had significant savings in traveling to or from work and missing out traffic. And so we actually saw a huge improvement. So much so, we decided as a board to continue remote working permanently. So for us, unlike some of you hoping to go back, we are never going back. And looking at our staff, many of our staff had originally left their hometowns and their countries to seek employment elsewhere. And now with our new model, they get to go home to their families and their friends. And it also gives us huge opportunity in which we now have staff placed all over the world, which you can imagine the opportunities that exist as a result of that. But like anything, there's always two sides to every coin. And although our productivity did increase, we saw quite a lot of people battle with the isolation parts, especially single guys, family men who are used to going to work and coming home to their family, and now suddenly there's an entire change around. Fortunately, our HR team were pretty switched on and they assisted and sorted it out. We do still have a couple of our staff who battle with this, which is very hard to address unless you're in person, and we just cannot be in person at this point. Because I suppose when all is said and done, we're all social creatures, and we've had to find inventive ideas of how to socialize without actually being physically present. So we introduced virtual gaming via Teams. So we've got teams that participate in this just to do a fun side of things, albeit via the electronic platform. It's still some way of reaching out. We created collabs during the workday to ensure that all members of our team were never left alone, and somebody battling could have a chat on the side with anybody else in the team. And recently we've started setting up smaller team lunches to enable some of our staff to socialize, but we've kept it very small and brief and with big gaps in between, because there is still a risk. And South Africa going into winter at this point, I'm pretty sure everybody follows the news, but specifically in terms of South Africa, we're expecting our third wave to hit, which, gosh, let's really hope it's not as bad as India. Our hearts go out to them. But that's in terms of our staff and the company. what we have seen happening in the marketplace is there's quite a lot of innovation that's happening in terms of technologies, and quite a few old names that have been around for quite some time are now coming to the forefront significantly. So in terms of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and tokenization, to mention but a few, being remote, we've had the privilege of actually attending a lot more sessions than we would have had we had to travel, because clearly we cannot be in 10 places simultaneously. And I mean, the jury is not out on this yet, because there's half of the pack who are very pro the new tech, and others are saying, well, it's kind of new tech, but it's doing the same old thing just like we had. It's just got a fancy wrapper on and a new name. So it's an interesting space to watch at this time. We've also seen quite a huge adoption in terms of cloud environments and software as a service, in terms of providing technology. We see this escalating rapidly as we go forward. We've also seen quite a lot of innovation in exchanges. And a lot of you will consider, and you think back to the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of exchanges around, and a huge consolidation happened, whereby we've ended up with a lot less exchanges. And now we're seeing quite a reversal of this in a sort of way, in a lesser way, where there's a lot of smaller exchanges which are emerging, and their product offerings are very dynamic and very different to what we are used to seeing out there. But I think given where we're sitting, security and validation in terms of your inputs, surveillance systems have very much come to the forefront. Clearly, hacking has now become the best profession on the planet at this point. So I think the need for any technology provider, you've got to button down your system with encryption beyond what we used to. There's obviously penetration tests that need to be run as part of a daily package almost. And certainly the adoption of surveillance systems is huge. We see it being adopted far and far more, where people are watching what's going on. And so I think I haven't quite done my 5 minutes. I wanted to keep it short and sweet because I can't talk in terms of volumes, but there's lots of interesting stuff happening out there. And I'd just like to end by saying I do indeed think there's a silver lining in every cloud. Sometimes we just got to scratch a little bit harder to find it.
There will be increase in poverty. Are you following me? So yes. But if we create, look at the Africa today, they're not if we have this market well put together and there's movement, we're able to produce here and move it over there, it's easy. If we consume what we have, what we produce here, it's easy. But if we keep depending on all.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Before we go to the next speaker, I would like to just say if anybody has got or can get and wants to send any sort of PowerPoint type presentation, if you send it to Christy, she will circulate. We have 2 at the moment, and we're quite happy if you are to circulate any PowerPoints relating to today and today's topic, or indeed your figures for last year, perhaps, if you want to share them with everybody. Please send to Christy, and she will act as the mailbox for that. Thank you. Okay, well, now we'll move on, and from South Africa, we'll go to sort of central-ish Europe, northern central Europe, to Belarus. Andre, it's your turn.
Yes, good day, dear colleagues. I'm happy to see you again. Unfortunately, again online. And we are dreaming someone will be finally able to see you, to see all of you here in Minsk. maybe autumn, maybe later. So again, anytime there will be possibility to come physically to Minsk, we will be very happy to see you here. So just let me share some of our results for the last 4 months of 2021. Our exchange structure remains almost the same as last year. 50% of our trading volume comes from wood, timber, and lumber. 20% of our turnover are metals, 20% agricultural products, and the rest 10% are volumes from our universal B2B electronic marketplace, where we are allowed to trade almost everything. Unfortunately, we still trade only spot contracts, only spot, because securities are not in a very high demand in our domestic Belarusian market. And the main trend of our work in the second half of 2020 and for 4 months of 2021 was the rise, the high rise in prices for almost all types of traded resources. So wood prices increased for the last, we count 6 months, for the last 6 months for more than 90% on our local market. Metals increased for 87%. Animal feeding, I'm talking now about everything, about wheat, corn, soybeans, meal, prices rise up for 50%, and rapeseed oil for 30%. And due to this fact, the total sum of our exchange transaction in January and April 2021 reached $1 billion with 40% growth, if we will compare to the same period of 2020. That's why we have quite good company financial results, and we don't feel any pandemic impact on our volumes or on our revenue. If we are talking about members of our exchange, almost the same. As of now, we have 26,000 of clients, and a little bit more than 5,000 are foreign companies. So 20% of them are foreign companies. And I can mention some topic results for the last 4 months. In December 2020, as I told, the major part of our exchange is timber and lumber. And due to high demand from Chinese companies in December 2020, we organized special trading sessions for lumber delivery to China, to lumber containers delivery to China. This became possible because of subsidies from the Chinese government to their buyers, and because of their government Belt and Road Initiative. As a result, now we have more than 40 regular Chinese timber buyers from Belarus. And now we can state that this was a successful project, and now we are organizing these trading sessions on a regular basis. We reached a total volume for these trading sessions of 20 million USD. No, of course, these are not very big figures, but we expect that it will grow significantly, because we have now a very, very high demand for exchange contracts for timber delivery to China. Another project we worked for was trying to open a trading route of sawn timber, of lumber, to Egyptian market. We accredited already 4 Egyptian companies on our exchange, and for the first time in our history, 3 containers of local timber projects were sold on our Belarusian exchange and were supplied to Egypt. And we are sure that this will be another big direction to trade timber to Egyptian market. Then another story that happened first time in our history, this time were import contracts for timber to local market, because Belarus for ages was a clear exporter of timber and lumber. But this year, due to very, very high prices for export lumber contracts, we have a very high demand from local producers for timber. And our local forestry companies, they're not able to cover this demand fully. That's why we registered the first import contracts for timber from Russia. Now we are not sure will this trend continue for the next months of 2021, but that's a very, very interesting point, because again, Belarus was a clear exporter, and now we start to be exporter and importer. Another small project that we did was agricultural trading sessions for raw cattle skins, but volumes are not very big. That's like a small startup. Of course, I have to say a couple words about COVID-19 impact. Now I hope we finally passed a 3rd wave of this infection, because 3 weeks ago we have in Belarus around 2,000 registered diseases per day. Now we have less than 1,000 per day. But already local production of Russian vaccine started. That's why now we have the possibility to vaccinate people and our staff as well. And we already did vaccination of all our staff. And next week, all of us will do a 2nd injection. And I'm sure we will stop finally the practice of distance working from home, and we will close this story because of vaccination. We will hope that the volume of vaccination will grow more and more, and finally we will be able, as a result, to see you in Minsk somewhere. And my last word, if we will talk about our new project, I should say that the biggest project for our exchange and the biggest challenge for us now is a total upgrade of our trading system. Last year, we celebrated 15th anniversary of our exchange, and unfortunately, some parts of our trading system, they are more than 10 years old. And because of high prices of the resources and because of good level of our company revenue, we decided to invest in full upgrade of our IT resources. We plan this work for the next 2 years, and I'm sure that after these 2 years, we will be able to see completely new trading system of our exchange with better web services and better analytics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you. Exciting times, and wow, the concept of timber going across Europe to Egypt. Just one question there. How far from the coast are you?
We have, you mean seaport?
Yeah.
We are delivering timber mostly through support.
Okay.
One in Latvia in Riga,
Okay.
and another one in Lithuania in Klaipėda.
Excellent.
And from Minsk to Klaipėda around 400 kilometers.
Wow. So still a long way to go. Indeed.
Yes, but now railway fee is quite acceptable, and prices, market prices all over the world, they are good to export even through triple logistics, because first you should deliver by truck to railway station, then by railway station to seaport, and then through seaport to Egypt.
Well, we look forward to, when we come to Minsk, to see a spider's web diagram of the export of timber to different places. Thank you, Andrei.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is Mr. Samatov there from Uzbekistan? No. Okay. I'll move on. I'll just ask again, if you're not actually speaking, please mute your microphones. We pick up all the external noise, and sometimes you can't hear. Thank you. Next up then, Lukasz from Irgit in Poland. Over to you.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. I'm very glad to have a chance to represent Irgit on today's meeting. I really enjoyed all of the speeches given so far, and what comes to my mind is that last year was both very demanding and very special for the whole exchange markets industry. And I think that the same applies to clearing companies and Irgit itself. And what comes to my mind is that after the initial pandemic hit, we as a Polish commodity market safekeeper, as I may say, we observed a few things. And first of all, the volatility on Polish and European markets or all over the world was tremendous, way above the standard market conditions. And secondly,
Sorry, we can't hear you,
Yeah.
Lucas.
Lucas, your sound went, yeah.
okay.
That's better, we hear that.
Yeah, I don't know where I have been muted.
Just the last 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, okay. So maybe I will just go through the second observation. So the second thing we observed is that pandemic impacted clearing members' liquidity resources, which of course, in combination with the high volatility, caused a lot of liquidity challenges for the clearing members and for us, of course. And the last observation from 2020 is that we are able to work from home forever, probably. And in this point, I have to admit that since March 2020, after a very smooth transition, I have to say, after a very smooth transition to home office era, Irgit staff rarely visits our premises. And it proves that we did quite well, and we did the homework and introduced quite bulletproof processes, including business continuity management. And what is even more interesting, that home office proved to be good enough even to carry out full real default management process. And as you may know, on 18th of March last year, we have declared one of our clearing members in default due to the non-performance on forward market. And this default was unique, just like the whole 2020. And it was unique because for the first time in 10 years ERGIT's history, we closed open positions directly on the market, and very illiquid market. Usually the defaulting clearing member closed the positions before we have to enter to the market. And secondly, for the first time in ERGIT's history, ERGIT had to use default contributions of other clearing members and to cover the losses. It was mainly the consequence of extreme price movements during this period. And indeed, we used only a small portion of default fund. It was around 2%. The size of the clearing member was not very big. And afterwards, we took almost every possible step to fully recover the cash that we consumed. And as you might guess, the whole process turned out to be successful. And later that year, on 10th of December 2020, defaulted clearing member repaid all losses, so that we transferred them back to the clearing members which default fund contributions we used. And from this perspective, that year was very unique. We had a lot of new experience and a lot of internal discussions what we could do better, and probably it gave us a lot of expertise, and our models will be even better prepared for the future default cases. So, and last thing that I would like to mention before I will pass the floor to the next speaker is that 2020 was special for ERGIT, not only because of the pandemic, not only because of the default case that I talked about, and not only because that last year was our 10th anniversary of launch ERGIT. But last year was also unique that because of that, at the beginning of the year, we finalized our project of developing of risk management model for Baltic gas exchange, for Get Baltic. And it was the first time when ERGIT provided some consultancy services internationally. And in the nearest future, we have a very ambitious plans to develop further our risk management core functions, and to make it even more efficient, to make it safer. And we are also searching for some possibilities to cooperate internationally, like we did with Get Baltic. We expect this year to bring us even more challenges, and we are ready to take these challenges and to bring a new experience, and to come back next year here to AFM and to share our experience. Thank you very much.
I'm speaking and I hadn't unmuted. I'm guilty of it as well. Lucas, thank you very much. Optimistic note. Interesting how from everybody progressively more and more working from home, we're talking positively about actually meeting people when we have an AFM in person. Be an interesting exercise for us. Moving swiftly on, and we probably have to accelerate just a little bit. If Rinjai, if you're there, please join us and tell us the story from Thailand Futures Exchange.
Hi, Paul. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you.
Okay. I'm gonna be brief. Actually, this COVID situation in Bangkok is kind of serious right now. So, a lot of infected persons.
You've dropped into mute again.
Okay. Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
So
I work from home because the COVID situation. So basically, most of the staff from the company, except for the operation person who have to stay at the building, who have to work at the building. But it's like a marketing person, business development, and all the other people actually work from home. We'll try to stay as safe as much possible, and hope all you guys stay safe and healthy as well. Last year, actually, if we come back to the business, last year, I think even though the COVID situation is very serious, but it's good for the business. Last year, in terms of the whole market, the total volumes actually grows like for TFX, it's about 15% growth. And this year also, the first quarters, the daily average volume has been growing about 11-12%. So basically, even though the COVID is not good, but the thing is the business is still going. We still meeting with people, and also the volatility in the market this year, basically lower than last year, but still people are more interested in investing, especially a new investor. One observation that I have in our market, which I don't know, maybe you guys can share your view as well, that because of the COVID situation, people were locked down, or the behavior has been changed. In our market, we have comprised retail participation about 48 to 50%. In cash and derivative market in Thailand, basically what we observe is that actually last year during the COVID, the number of investors, the newcomer into the market has been numerous compared to the years before. For TFX, last year, the new investor, the new account has been growing about 16%, which usually is lower than that. But this year, only 3 months, we outgrow the number the whole last year. Last year, we probably have the new people coming in, like the account of 23,000 account. But in 3 months of this year, we outgrow that. We have, I think, about 24,000 accounts already, which I think is thanks to technology, and basically people have to stay home, and now has been very easy for people to open account and trading online. I think this one has been one of the observation in our market. For the other things, in terms of other development in the market, in our market, basically, I would like to point out that because of the observation that we see, what we're trying to do is basically we don't talk about the marketing and education online, because we have done it a long time ago before COVID. But what we try to do is to make the process, to improve the process, and make the technology which will make the customer journey in terms of customer onboarding online less complicated and more efficient, which this is the big project that we're going to work with the industry and regulator. And the next project, which we thought is a big project for us, is we're going to basically to change the trading system for derivative market and equity market. We're going to change the system from Singapore to Nasdaq OMX, which we scheduled to launch in 2023 in March 2023, which is so this year we are even the COVID, we are so very busy about testing and making all the requirements and final requirements, get ready to upgrade, which we thought that the new trading system will help us in terms of trading efficiencies, coming to the market in terms of launching a new product, and also we also implement pre-trade risk management to facilitate our institutional investor as well at the exchange level. The last one is what that I want to mention is basically we try to initiate new product. Last year, basically we launched 2 new products, silver online futures and Japanese rubber future, which is, the last one, Japanese rubber future, we in cooperation with Osaka Stock Exchange. We basically use their price as a reference for our contract. And also the last one, we have been discussed about new technology. So we cooperation with the bank and also the brokers in order to basically introduce, some kind of a small blockchain application in order to do the deliver process for the physical USD, US currency into the investor account. Give you a little bit background at present, the regulation in terms of future market, the USD futures, the currency future USD Thai baht need to be cash settled only by regulation. But what happened is when the producer and commercial importer exporter, they want to use they want to have the physical US in order to use for their commercial hedging purpose. So what we do is basically we work around that, the regulation. So we tell the bank and the participant that the bank will use our settlement price as a reference for basically transact the physical currency. And we try to use that blockchain application to link with the exchange clearinghouse and everyone in order to facilitate the importer exporter. So basically, I guess that would be like a small briefing of what going on in Thailand Futures Exchange.
Thank you very much, Rinjai. Small briefing, but very, very full of information. Thank you. Next is back to Africa, to South Africa again, this time to JSE and Raphael for your few minutes. Are you still with us, Raphael?
Yes, Paul, I'm there. Hi, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity, really, and it's quite great listening to everyone. If anything is very impressive this afternoon is actually Paul's hairdo, and probably that's the sign of what this lockdown has been doing to most of us. I'm really not going to waste a lot of time on the statistics, except to say that, of course, during the time that we had our first webinar, it was just at the height of the pandemic, and a lot of volatility in the market and so on. So what we see now, a year later, is that volatility has subsided a bit. So we have seen trading volumes across the different asset classes actually having gone down relative to what it was last year. But volumes have remained steady in most instances. Perhaps with the exception of commodities, in the sense that commodities have been we have been gaining support from the international commodity prices that have been fueled by the American stimulus packages and and some of the oil seeds that have remained very steady and so that support has we have seen it here in the South African market. Of course, the rand has also strengthened very well compared to the same period last year against all the major currencies And that has also meant that the value traded has dropped a bit in some of those commodities. But let me then just share just the general experience really of what we have been doing during COVID and the experience. And maybe just to alert or to confirm what most of my colleagues here have been confirming, the fact that we are experiencing a new normal. It is doubtful whether we would actually go back to office full time. As I speak now, I'm still operating from home since March last year. And every time that we are even trying to look at the possibility of maybe going back to the office, then there's a wrong signal or a different signal about another second or third or fourth wave somewhere around the world. And then that keeps on delaying the possibility of actually going back. But not only that, I think we have come to terms to accept the fact that even if we were to go back to the office, it's not going to be business as usual. Probably it will be on a rotational basis. It will be, optional and so on. So, and there are those again who feel that they miss the physical touch, the physical integration with their peers, and others who really just found, satisfaction in this working from home environment. I just came before this webinar. I came from an annual medical, and the one thing that was, a message that I would certainly just blame on lockdown was the fact that I put up 5 kilos. And it's a question of how am I going to burn those while I'm just all at home and with limited exercise and so on. So it's some of those experiences that one would say, we wish we could integrate more, we could walk more, take steps, the kind of stuff, subtle stuff that you would do in an office, but now that you're just chair bound almost for 8 hours with limited mobility. So those are the kind of things that means we really have to, even when we look at our health, we have to look at how we are going to manage that going forward. From a company really perspective, of course, the working from home has meant that if you look at the performance, revenue of the JSE has done quite very well because of a couple of substantial savings, on normal costs, entertainment cost, traveling cost, and all these types of expenses that have gone down quite substantially. Of course, the office space is almost a fixed cost that you have to manage. But we also used to have a satellite office in Cape Town. We've got a major office in Johannesburg and one in Cape Town. And we ended up closing the satellite office in Cape Town, and then just where the employees are now working remotely. And ever since then, there was no need to really go back and reopen or start new rental, commercial terms. So from that perspective, really, I think we would see that we are moving in a completely, slightly different direction. As an exchange, we are also now looking at different other new products. For example, we have been very focused on inorganic acquisitions and opportunities in areas where we were not concentrating as an exchange, and perhaps where some of the like the European and American exchanges have had an edge, where they are nowadays actually see themselves as tech companies rather than just a platform providers. So I think we are catching up with those international exchanges to really also start moving high tech, start managing data differently, looking at blockchain technology and so on. On the commodity side, we have also been trying to look at new products such as carbon credits, again, driven by some of the new legislation in the country, Carbon Tax Act that has been introduced, and we, on the back of that, trying to see if we could then leverage that and create more products in that area. We are also, that we have been facing load shedding, and time has come now also for the government to step up in terms of unbundling the utility provider here in South Africa called Eskom. And out of that unbundling, I think would be opportunities for the independent power producers. And we are now looking also at the energy market and possibility of energy market and what kind of models we are going to emulate and adopt, going forward. So those are some of the exciting stuff on the horizon there as well. I think the HR division of the JSE has won accolades and awards just the way it handled its personnel during the peak time of COVID. And in fact, a lot of companies actually emulated that. For example, giving a time off, we ended up having things such as no meetings Wednesday. We have seen other companies actually adopting that as well. In fact, if you look at my calendar now, it has got inserted there yoga time and meditation time. It's almost like part of my meeting obligations that I have to, do that. We introduced paternity leave for some of the those that are, our young colleagues that are, just newlyweds and so on. And it was quite an experience. Like now I had to look for a replacement because one of my young chaps actually got a leave, 4 months leave for, having given birth in the family. And those are new experiences because we never had paternity leaves in the past. But it's costing me from an operational point of view. But yeah, exciting times going ahead, and I think those are the new normals that we have adopted. Just some of the comments from our side here. Thanks.
Thanks, Raphael. So opportunities and innovations in the market and entry into new age thinking, perhaps in looking after ourselves and each other. Interesting changes. We'll carry on. And next, I'll go back to Poland. Jaroslav. Jarek, it's over to you.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning or good afternoon, depends where you are sitting behind your desk and at home as mostly. Again, I wouldn't like to talk about let's say the data and things like that, but I think that the few comments for let's say the previous participants. First of all, Rinai, I can assure you, if you are thinking about Nasdaq trading system, we run on it remotely for last year, and it handles. It's possible. I think nobody imagined, let's say a year ago, or let's say a year or 2 months ago, that all the exchange will be running remotely for the whole day, because as Power Exchange, we are part of the European intraday market coupling. So let's say we run the trading session 24 hours per 7. So it's possible. It's a completely different world of working. I'm running the strategy and projects department. So the issue sometimes is that it was sometimes quite much easier to explain during the personal meeting what are you trying to do during the project, what its expectation, how you'd like to work. And then let's say the new reality is just you are sitting in front of the Teams, or you are sitting in front of as we currently sitting in front of the Zoom, and let's say you are discussing. And of course, as you probably all aware, the most important is the things we thought it never go down. It means the internet connections, it means the computers and things like that. And this is suddenly becomes much more important, especially if you guys from the tech department are working remotely and trying as quickly as possible doing something to fix the connections and things like that, especially if you talk to the management board and trying to explain something. The second thing is that last year we opened the new market. We started trading the agriculture for the spot, and we just opened it in the beginning of the COVID era. So as you can imagine, we were prepared for completely different marketing discussion in, let's say, teaching, learning things for the people. And suddenly you realize that you should switch to complete different communication channel. And this was quite a big, let's say, exercise for us. The second thing, there was the second part of the market we opened last year. We transfer, as we are part of the EU, we transfer our forward business into the OTF due to the MiFID II regulation. So you can imagine if you're running the market, which is very huge, everybody is expecting that it will continue. You just rebrand it and do some small changes, and everybody is expecting that during the COVID it will run the same with no problems and things like that. And Łukasz could confirm that it happened. It's possible. The thing we learned currently, and I think it's nothing surprisingly, your calendar is full of meetings. I think sometimes many too many. And let's say we need to really still struggle or fight to change our working habits. A year is more or less quite some time to learn, but let's say, especially if you are acquiring the new people in the team and they used to get to completely different habits previously, if they work, let's say, in the office and things like that, and you run this issue currently completely remotely. I've been in the company during last year, I can tell, just 5 or 7, not even all days. So it was really completely remote. And this is completely new habits. And of course, I will not say how much more I am, let's say, during the COVID. I think that it could be something like Rafael was talking about, a few kilos plus. So you need to also change a little, or let's say add a little new habits to your life, because most of all, we are spending more than 8 hours in front of the PC or tablets and things like it, because we are all working at home. So it's always, you need to keep life work balance to have, let's say, not stay, let's say, I will send this one new mail today, or I will do also this today, and things like that. This have to keep you very well organized. And I think this is one of the biggest exercise each exchange and each of us made last year.
Derek, thank you very much. Interesting times for you as well. I think it's a lot easier to be a home-based worker if, like me, you work on defined projects for defined periods of time, which is what I've been doing for nearly 5 years now, rather than just try to carry on being doing your salaried career job. I cannot imagine how difficult that is. And yet I hear, sorry, you come back in a moment, I hear that despite of that, business has continued and business has developed in spite of the obstructions and obstacles and changes and real mental shake-up that COVID has brought to us. But we can't assume we've adapted. And what I'm hearing is more adaptation help is required.
I think so. Of course, it's case by case, but I think that, as Łukasz said, the IRGIT was last year 10th anniversary. We were last year 20 year of our go live. So you can imagine that the worst thing is that we do not have the chance to party. And the 20 years is something you would like to party. So everybody is expecting that it will be the huge party. And our mother, Warsaw Stock Exchange, has this year, few weeks ago, 30 years of anniversary. So you can imagine if you add this 3 anniversaries, what a party could be, and everybody is
Well,
just expecting that, let's say, somehow this year it will happen.
there is one way to have a remote party. Only one way, I think. Only one way.
Yes.
It's that the organisation that is celebrating, and excuse me if I upset people in organisations, the organisation that is celebrating should send a party hat and a bottle of wine or champagne to everybody, and fix a time where everybody puts the hat on, opens the bottle, and toasts each other. That would be the most fantastic gesture, not just to say, let's all dial in today, and by the way, bring a drink with you. Do it properly, but I'm sure you will.
Paul, I will bring this idea to my marketing and bosses. So
I think it'd be great. You will get so much positive HR publicity out of it.
Yes, I think so.
And I will put my commission claim in.
Okay.
I'll send you my address.
All right.
Jarek, it's always a pleasure, and it's been far too long since we met.
Yeah, we have to meet.
Okay then. So
thanks.
Thank you. And now we're going a little bit across Europe. We're going to Hungary again, to Budapest, I think, to meet Babette from Keller.
Yes, thank you very much. So warm welcome from myself as well to all of you. It was very interesting to hear all the experiences and insights of your markets and how you personally feel. I think I will, how they say, repeat some of your feelings, because I think we are all in the same shoes. I would like to summarize to you what we experienced in Hungary. And I think a lot of things that the colleagues from Poland were saying will be similar. So first of all, I think we as clearing houses who are serving, you know, or I just repeat just for your information that we, Keller, CCP in Hungary, are clearing house, we are the clearing house not only for the Budapest Stock Exchange, for the capital market, but for quite a long time, for 10 years now almost, we are serving also energy markets. So the Hungarian gas exchange, the Hungarian gas and energy derivative exchange as well. And we are also in a very special position because we are a kind of GCM, so General Clearing Member of ECC. And through that, we are actually providing reach to traders, clients from all over the region or even Western Europe to all the markets that are served by ECC. So we are quite special. We have oversight to, you know, a lot of asset classes, not only capital market, but energy products as well. And we have reached to clients, I would say, all over, mainly Europe, but our region. What we also experienced in this past 1 year that actually the markets, especially the capital markets, so the Budapest Stock Exchange, showed extreme volatility when the pandemic situation happened. So last year, March, was actually extremely high turnover, really a lot of volatility, where actually we as a CCP had to be there. And I think this was a perfect sign to the market that actually the clearinghouse had absolutely no issues with the turnover, which was really extreme, with the, you know, dropping prices, and our risk management handled the situation perfectly. We tried to be careful, you know, with the margin calls and initial margin requirements, not to increase them immediately, but, you know, kind of step by step, but also, of course, keeping the risks completely under control. So I have to say that that period was really exciting, on one hand on the markets as well. On the other hand, of course, the whole CCP's operation, as in your cases, had to be turned to complete home office, which happened actually in 1 day almost. And I'm very proud of all the colleagues on the IT side that they ensured within a couple of days, really, the full connectivity. The VPN licenses were increased almost immediately. You know, we provided the colleagues with laptops who didn't have telephones, and we actually kept our operational capabilities and stability all through this period, which was, I think, for all of us, a great achievement. But I also would like to emphasize, and I think this is something which we all, I think, can just underline, that actually we as a CCP, for example, being active not only in one kind of product like or market, like capital market, Budapest Stock Exchange, but providing services to, for example, energy markets as well, proved to be a good strategy, because after the turbulence, what I explained to you in last March, Budapest Stock Exchange volumes, unfortunately, I wouldn't say that fall to the very minimal, but were not that active. So clients kept away from the markets as far as we saw a bit. And in that period, it was very good for Keller CCP that, we have another leg. So in our strategy, we are not fully dependent on one product or one segment or one country, but the energy markets were there, which were, how would I say, pandemic resistant, or I would say the volumes and all the activity that we saw on the energy markets seemed to be less dependent on the pandemic, or moreover, there the pandemic even again caused increase in certain products. So I think this is something which we learned, that in the long-term strategy of a company, you have to be, how would I say, standing on several legs, not only depending on one product, one service, which can be, in a case of a crisis or something, very risky. What I wanted to emphasize, and I think that is also something which some of you already mentioned, that we learned a lot of lessons, and I think we had to adopt not only technology-wise, and not only, like learning how to use all these Zoom, Teams, email, and the multifunctioning that we all are doing all the day. But I think we really learned, on one hand, as leaders, new skills, or we understood how important it is to actually manage our people in a different way. We had to be more emphatic, to really realize that, for example, my colleagues who were at home with little children, with their school and kindergartens closed, of course, I had to take care that I don't disturb them or let them be with their children in certain periods of the time. And we had the meetings when they were asleep, or when we could really adopt and really be empathic to these situations, because these mothers are great colleagues. They really worked, in the morning, in the evening, and we had to be, or I also had to be very, how to say, patient. And it absolutely proved to be a good strategy, because now they are more engaged to the company. They are very, how to say, they want to prove that they can work from home. So I think the efficiency and the productivity didn't fall, but rather grew. So I think this is something which we all learned, that our colleagues can work from home. If we can be flexible and adopt and support them, they will deliver. On the other hand, we also experience that fully being at home is not something which we can keep for a long term or forever. We all feel that the missing personal contacts, the information gap, all the things that grow as time goes by, forces us that at least partially we have to come back. So now our management team is already working on the bright new future, let's put it this way, how we can really keep the good size of the home office and really allow our clients to work from home, our colleagues to work from home at least two days a week, or 3 days a week, or if it's such a position which allows even more. But somehow establish a system where we can ensure that colleagues will be together, they meet their teams, that we can hold team meetings on site. So, these are the things which we have to mix and really be very, how to say, strategic, concrete, and somehow grab the opportunity to mix the two things. As far as the business is concerned, I would outline maybe 3 important notes, which I think all of you can maybe relate to. On one hand, we experience that our partner exchanges our clients, our, how do I say, experts on the ground, they became more active on the social media or on the online online tools such as LinkedIn, and such online platforms became extremely active. So for example, Keller CCP created a new own profile apart from our group, which is Keller, and we became very, very active on LinkedIn. So for example, if you check us on LinkedIn, Keller CCP, in the last months, we really posted a lot of videos, really news, activities that we want to be, how to say, seen more on these platforms, because we have to reach clients and partners, I believe, on these platforms much, much more actively. And I also agree with some of you who already mentioned that on one hand, it is much more difficult to reach partners and clients because, of course, the soft coffees, the meetings, the conferences are not there. But we also realized that actually the online platform makes it even more easy to establish big international meetings, to reach our potential stock exchanges that can choose Keller CCP as their partners if we do it online, because we don't have to travel, we don't have to spend a week on such a cross-border trip, but we quickly organize a call and they are more open. We can meet them more often. We can use this platform really much more efficiently. And I also see that the costs can be more controlled in a way. Of course, office space in the long term, of course, the travel costs and all these stuff. So I think from business wise, we really have to grab these opportunities and really use again, also in the bright new future. So from Hungary, these were the, my thoughts, my insights. I hope it is very useful for you. We can't hear you, Paul, sorry.
I keep doing this. I keep falling foul of my own rules. Babette, thank you very much. I'm sure everybody enjoyed what you had to say, and there are lessons, and we all have refinements on the same topic, I think, which is good. We're going to overrun. I make that now, and if anybody needs to leave by 1:30 who's meant to be speaking, please say something. Otherwise, we'll just carry on. We'll probably overrun by 1/4 of an hour. If the remaining speakers, that includes me, maintain some discipline. I just don't like cutting people off. So let's try and keep it as concise as possible. And so on that note, Terry, if you're still there, please come and talk to us.
I'm here. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is keeping well. It's afternoon in Nairobi. We've had a fairly good start to the year. We launched the derivatives market here in 2019, July. It did help that we had a pandemic year last year and this year. For a market that has been largely long only, working from home doesn't help the cause where we, are trying to raise awareness towards building a new market. But we've managed to gradually get a bit of participation up, get a bunch of members up. Trading and clearing is all seamless. There've been no concerns at all around the systems, around the processes. Our vendor STT, Michelle, is here, and we're generally happy with the service. We're currently doing about just slightly under 1 million contracts year to date. Well, not 1 million contracts, but $1 million US worth of trades, which is a large gain over same period last year. And we are seeing much more interest coming along. We have quite a number of brokers calling us and requesting how they would participate. We're spending a lot of time with the institutional investors to see how they can participate. But again, you know, a lot of this, one of the concerns, you know, that comes to us is around liquidity. So we onboarded a market maker last year towards December, and we've seen volumes going up. So we're happy. We're happy. The you know, for us, really is a conversation around uptake. So we're spending quite a bit of time on the awareness and education to just get you know, the local market understanding the products. The bulk of the participation is mainly local. So far, what we've seen is a bit of some sell side and retail investors mainly participating. We have only about 7 or so contracts, one on the main index. We've put in an application to the regulator to do a mini version of the same. And then we have about 6 contracts on the most liquid counters in Kenya. So you know, slow growth, but we're also, you know, getting requests from other exchanges in Africa, just asking, you know, what it would entail for them to go through the same process of setting up an exchange. You know, what do they need to put in place, and the likes. And I'm sure with due time, then we'll also be recommending the same exchanges to AFM for membership, to take up membership. So really, that's it from my side. Nothing else to add. We haven't done much around the commodity space. There's ongoing discussions with the government around setting up a spot market for the same, but that, you know, in Kenya, the government moves quite slowly, and I'm sure that's the case in other jurisdictions as well. The pandemic here has been largely handled well. We've had a 3rd wave already, but we only have about 2,800 deaths to date. So everyone, we're trying to keep safe, and we wish every one of you safe as well until we, you know, we're able to meet physically again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for your wishes on behalf of everyone. I'm advised, as they go on TV, I'm advised by the producers that we have 17 minutes of guaranteed uptime. And if we go down, if we're still going, we might be in 17 minutes time, that's at 1:45, the call will be reconnected. So if we haven't finished, please have a look and reconnect. We will run this through till it finishes. But we keep an eye on the time, Christian. The burden is on you to keep an eye on the time, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Christian, in Malawi.
Thank you, Paul. You know me, I can't speak long, even if I tried, or maybe. It's very interesting to follow what they're doing in Kenya, and congratulations, Terry, on that. Of course, we have decided not to go derivatives in Malawi, but we very much know that that it's needed. The functionalities that they bring to the market, it's very much needed, and also in Malawi. But in Malawi, the exchange is really focusing on getting volumes on the warehouse receipt system. We see that as the first building block to building the infrastructure needed to launch more complex product. And that is going quite well. After the shock, I believe I spoke to the AFM membership about in 2016-17. We now had a record year, the year ending here in March. So we are quite optimistic moving forward. And one of the things, the exchange actually went into collateral management of the physical to really bring the banks on board to finance commodity. And when they do finance, they are adopting the warehouse receipt system because of the protections the government gives. So we're very optimistic about that. We are looking to bring in something innovative inspired by the derivatives and the option contracts on JSE. But we call it an option fund, but the mechanics is the same, but it's a physical kind of bespoke over-the-counter contract that we will offer the banks to kind of ensure the finance they bring to the warehouse receipt system. And the risk will be offloaded to the processors. So if we are issuing an option contract on soya, we do it on the back of a processor who is willing to issue it. So that is quite interesting. And it's bound to succeed because Chris Sturgis is helping us with the modality. So we have high expectations to Chris to pull this off, just to put a little bit of pressure out there. Of other things, we're looking at instruments like warehouse bonds. Sorry, Chris. as a warehouse bond insurance to further protect the physical in the warehouses. So this is a completely different market to what most of you are used to, of course. So we got to get the banks comfortable. We got to get the receipt, the integrity in the receipt system, so the receipts can be traded and financed freely, and that's where our main focus is at the moment. We are enjoying quite a lot of government support. The warehouse receipt system and the exchanges is very much center in government ag and trade policies, so that's quite exciting to see. Government has also come up with what they call an export mandate, which basically means they want to better control export. They want to make sure that exported goods are not at the market-related price, so the exporters don't do price transfer and get paid outside. Malawi wants to make sure that the proceeds end in Malawi, and also as a way to better keep export data. The export mandate basically means that any exporter have to either trade through one of the exchanges or just register the contract through the exchange. So when this comes through, the exchanges will really be at the center. Sorry, tobacco trucks passing the office. The exchanges will really be at the same center of any export out of Malawi. And that would be quite interesting to see. Of course, it's mostly an admin or clerk function of government, but we take it on as it's an income generator, of course, and because it can help us develop the export markets through the exchanges. On a personal note, we decided to kind of look at what positive could the pandemic really bring. And one of the things, of course, as many of you mentioned, that you could work out of office. My family have decided to take that to the next level, and we're basically going to take a year out of Malawi and travel in Europe, just visiting different countries, find a base, an apartment or house, and just live there for a month or two. And basically just travel Europe. So if anybody of those of my colleagues in Europe who wants a visit of a nice family, let me know, and we might pass through your country. Of course, it's a bit daunting, but I think if there is a period in time where such a thing could be done, I guess it's now. So we said, let's try it. And I guess worst case scenario, we buy a ticket and fly back if can't manage to work from that far away. But in theory, it shouldn't be different than sitting in your house here, right? So I don't know where I will be when we travel to Belarus, but possibly I'm more close than if I had been in Malawi. So thank you very much. I think I kept my time, Paul. Over to you.
Yeah, excellent, Christian. You've done really well. Thank you very much. And yeah, anyone can help Christian with his personal question. I'm sure he'll be very, very grateful in many ways. Now to Argentina. Araceli, are you still with us?
Yes, yes, I am. How are you, everybody? Well, in Argentina, we're going now through the third wave, which is it's worse than the first two. Things have been complicated. We were starting to go back to the office. It was optional, but now we're again in full close down. Only 2.5% of the population has had both doses, and 16 has had the first dose. So it will take a while. But in terms of the exchange, well, we see what most of the exchanges have experienced. In our exchange is more or less the same. In 2020, Madvarofex didn't see a big change in volumes, at least in agricultural products. We traded 54 million tons, but we fell in volume for the financial products. This was due to country situations, not the pandemic. We have a new government with new policies, and that discouraged the use of financial derivatives. But in the first 4 months of this year, and again, mainly due to prices and volatility, the volume in agricultural commodities really soared. We have an open interest of 7 million tons, which is 30% more than last year, and 75% higher volume for the same period in all agricultural products increase. So we are excited, and we hope that this will continue. We don't see new participants or many new participants, but we do see more interest in taking coverage. We also launched a new product that is designed for grain origination. It's a contract with delivery with a guarantee of Madvarofex. And the purpose is to reduce or eliminate credit risk from certain OTC contracts that we have. In this, the way it works, and I'm sure it has a name in English, but I don't know it. The seller delivers the grains to the buyer, who issues a document, a bond, like a corporate bond, that is guaranteed by Madvarofex. And the buyer is providing a guarantee to Madvarofex for protection of the exchange. But this document can be negotiated, and each party can set the price at a future day whenever they decide, using Madvarofex futures. So they deliver the grains, and then they set the price whenever it's convenient for each part. We have already traded 80,000 tons since it was launched in December. So this came to solve a situation that we had in the country where 2 elevators went bankrupt in the past 2 years. The other news is that we're calculating a Bitcoin index and have requested permission from the regulator to list a contract in the coming months. We don't have the approval yet, but we hope it will be sometime this year. And last, we are putting a lot of emphasis and energy into our technology subsidiaries. We have 2 companies in the group that provide technology services, and the revenues of those 2 companies now account to 25% of total revenues of Madvarofex Group. And we are trying to diversify, like one of the colleagues said, standing in several legs. So we are diversifying our business. And that's all. I'm trying to keep it short.
Thanks, Araceli. That was very good. Thank you very much. And it's clearly a case of ups and downs in Argentina, and let's hope everything gets on the upward trajectory as quickly as possible, particularly the people. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, pressing all the wrong buttons. We're running close to the wire. I've asked Christy, but I can't see her at the moment, if we should reconnect now. But what we'll do is we'll move straight to Matthias in Hupex, and unless Christy says we should reconnect, we'll start with Matthias and see where that takes us. If we get cut off, we apologise, Matthias.
Thanks, Paul, and hi everybody. It's good to be here for me for the first time. Just a quick introduction. I'm the CEO of the Hungarian Power Exchange as of 1st of August last year. So for me, the pandemic situation is a bit more special probably than to you. As you may know that in Hungary, the Hungarian Power Exchange operates as an integrated energy exchange group covering the gas segment, the electricity segment, both in spot markets and in derivative markets. So basically, we are kind of one-stop shop when we are talking about the Hungarian gas and power trading. For us, the last year's results were really good. Of course, we also felt the effect of the pandemics, primarily in terms of operations. We also had to switch very quickly from the office to the home office world, but it was a great achievement of the team that they could do it in a couple of days. And the majority of the last year were spent in home office. And let's say we got used to it in terms of operative tasks managing. We experienced a significant rally in the prices last year in March, but the volumes were steady, and we experienced a significant growth overall in the volumes last year, and the first quarter is also promising. Although we see here that in the European prices, and probably it is not only a European thing, that in gas and electricity and also in CO2 we reach really high prices, especially nowadays, and it has not a positive effect on the futures market. But yeah, that's the situation, and that's how we have to deal with it. What we learned from the pandemics, or how we are doing in these times. Babette already explained how they managed it in Budapest. Probably just a quick overview. We are also facing, the third wave in Hungary, and let's hope that we are reaching the end, and the whole country is working on protecting us from having the fourth wave. We have a really serious vaccination stream, especially in our group. We can tell that we are over 75% vaccinated, which gives us the hope that we can slowly go back to the office. Of course, agreeing with you, we will have the new normal operation combined with working from the office and home office, which will have its challenges in terms of infrastructure also. But we also feel that only working from home is not enough. We have new colleagues; they have to be integrated into the team. To be honest, I can tell you that from my experience, from operative point of view, we can handle the daily stuff really good working from home. But what we also experience, and it is more and more growing demand, that for really big decisions for building businesses, the home office is not enough. And this is also valid from a strategic point of view, and also valid if you're talking about sales and building personal relationships with traders, new members. This is not a sufficient way of working. Of course, we took care of the staff, and I was a bit smiling about Rafael's or Yaroslav's statement about their rates. We have a sport organization, and we launched some events. How far we get from the office, collecting kilometers. Now we are on the way to go back. So we have weekly challenges. Who gets more kilometers in terms of walking, running, or walking with the dog. So everything counts. With these kind of little challenges, we try to stay healthy. And for the future plans, we are trying to increase our volumes using our integrity. So using this one-stop shop functioning. And what we see here that we will have regional developments in terms of infrastructure, especially in gas, where we hope that our central seat is really promising, and we can get more members and more liquidity on our markets. And finally, I hope that we will have the possibility to meet in the future. For me, this will be the first personal meeting, so I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you very much for that, and I think we all share your sentiments. If I may, if he's still here, is Septimiu from Romania still with us? No. I don't see you anymore. Okay, I was going to ask Septimiu to maybe just say a few words, as they're a great member, and I'm sure RCE would have a few things to say to us. Never mind. I now have the privilege, I guess, I've been asked by Tyfex, Taiwan, who couldn't make it, if I could just say a few words. They've sent me a very few words about what's been going on last year and their expectations for this year. I'll keep it brief, and this will be the last piece of information. So on behalf of Tyfex then, Anne and her team, last year, new record volumes, 341 million contracts last year, which is a 31% increase to 2019. Average daily volumes for the full year also reached an all-time record of 3.3 million average daily. The Tyfex options, TXO, increased by nearly 19% year on year to 201, nearly 202 million contracts in the year. That is an all-time high. Two other flagships had even greater growth. The mini futures increased 102%, and the Tyfex futures 35%. The mini futures indeed averaged in a new market averaged 245,000 contracts per day. Really heartwarming results. It wasn't just Tyfex in Taiwan, but the stock market reached a new high. Again, quite an interesting step. And I think the next piece maybe explains some of it. Although the global economy was overshadowed by the fast spread of COVID, two factors tied to the pandemic were significant in helping Taiwan achieve relative success. First of all, the government effectively controlled and managed COVID without having to make sweeping closures of schools, offices, and shops. Indeed, since July last year, revenues for retailers and restaurants have increased compared with 2019. Secondly, the Taiwanese manufacturing base has been well positioned to meet global demand. Whether it's tiny semiconductor production or giant computer servers, electronics accounts for a third of Taiwan's exports. And indeed, with so many people suddenly faced with having to work from home, sales of products such as tablets, headphones, etc. have been strong. We've all contributed in some way to Taiwan's success, I think. So while global trade shrank significantly, Taiwan had an increase of nearly 5% in exports and just under 3% GDP growth. So what are they looking at for this year? In this year, the continued rise and getting back to normal of retail and ESG investing will incentivize the introduction of more innovative and varied derivative services and products that will indeed cater for their post-COVID-19 economy. In January, it wasn't just the pandemic and the promising results of vaccine trials that was the buzz, but also GameStop. I think we all recall that, the American video game. And it was the impact of retail investors connecting and organizing on online message boards that affected this short-term squeeze. But even before the pandemic in Taiwan, the expansion of low-fee online brokers had reduced entry barriers for smaller investors. Then in 2020, as retail around the world skyrocketed with remote and furloughed workers dabbling in stock investing while under lockdown, global stock prices were driven to new highs towards the end of last year. So new micro derivatives, which are being introduced by futures exchanges, are responding swiftly to take advantage of both the new growth opportunities arising from greater participation by small investors and as part of their responsibility to keep markets accessible. Small contracts are equally flourishing in Asia. Tyfex recently launched a broader suite of mini single stock futures focusing on tech stocks such as the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, and also are set to further leverage Taiwan's core expertise in semiconductors and its unique position in the global technology supply chain. And to do this, they're going to introduce in June mini electronics sector futures. In ESG, Tyfex has partnered with FTSE to launch its first ESG future and will continue to promote the product as well as help to develop an ESG eco-subsystem. As ESG-based investment is gradually picking up and will become the mainstream in the long run, they believe that exchanges have to work closely with the investment community to facilitate changing hedging needs and to support global economic recovery. I think warm words, positive words, and an indication of how we need, or markets need, to begin to recognize what really is in demand, where the trends are. And I maybe joked about new world, new age initiatives in HR, but it's certainly encouraging the development of ESG sector through ESG investments, and doing that through the exchanges that's going to be a significant player in the years to come in all markets. At that point, I would like to thank all of you all. There are 25, 26 of you still online at peak. We had 34, 35. I'd like to thank you all for your forbearance, for your interest, and for your contributions, and echo the words that have been said many times this morning, afternoon, that we really all look forward to that next physical meeting in Belarus. On the work from home thought, maybe some companies could think of taking an environment where there are 2 or 3 meeting rooms and a smattering of smaller workstations to enable the people to gather together for meetings in a safe environment, but also to help facilitate the needs to have some people who want to working face-to-face with colleagues. I don't know, perhaps that's another compromise along the way. If anyone has got anything to say, now's the time. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you all and wish you a good rest of the day.